All right, today we're going to break down a system that's all about bringing methodical order to the most chaotic situations you can possibly imagine. We're talking about triage, the life-saving logic that drives some of the hardest choices in an emergency. So picture this, total chaos. A huge accident, maybe an earthquake. You've got dozens of injured people, but nowhere near enough medics. Who do you help first? The person screaming the loudest? The one closest to you? It's a really tough question, and your first instinct is almost always the wrong one. And yeah, this is where our instincts can totally lead us astray. It's not about who's making the most noise or who we happen to see first. It's actually about a cold, hard, systematic calculation with just one goal: saving the most lives possible. To really get why this system even exists, you have to appreciate the problem it's trying to solve. An emergency scene? It's just pure chaos. You've got multiple patients, all with different injuries, not enough people to help, and that clock is just ticking down. Without a system, responders get overwhelmed, and you lose precious, precious time. And that's where triage comes in. It's not just a fancy word, it's this incredibly powerful system for sorting patients based on how badly they're hurt. Think of it like a special lens that helps responders see right through all that chaos and focus their efforts where it'll do the most good. And this quote really just nails it. Triage completely throws out the first-come, first-served rule that we pretty much live by. The entire system is built on this one really radical idea. The sickest person gets help first. Period. So why is having this formal system so absolutely critical? Well, it's not just about being organized. It's a proven method for actually improving survival rates when the odds are completely stacked against you. And the payoff here? It's huge. By focusing time and resources, triage creates this powerful ripple effect. It stops medics from getting bogged down with one patient while another person's life is literally hanging by a thread. It makes sure the most critical supplies go where they're needed most. This systematic approach doesn't just cut down on the chaos, it directly lowers the number of deaths that could have been prevented. All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of how this actually works out in the field. Triage is built on a really simple but super effective color coding system that's used all over the world. Each color basically signals a different level of urgency. First up, you've got red. When a patient gets tagged with red, it means they are priority number one. Their condition is immediately life-threatening, and they need help right now to survive. So, what kind of injury lands you in the red category? I mean, think catastrophic. We're talking about severe, uncontrolled bleeding, someone who's in shock, a person struggling for every single breath. These are the patients who are just minutes away from death, and they get moved for treatment immediately. Okay, next up is yellow. A yellow tag means the injury is serious for sure, but it's not immediately life-threatening. These patients are stable enough for the moment, and they can wait a little while for care. So now we're talking about things like a major bone fracture, or maybe significant burns. But the key word here is stable. Their life isn't in immediate danger. And the fact that they can wait is exactly what frees up responders to save the red-tagged patients. All right, let's talk about green. This group is often called the walking wounded. As you can probably guess, their injuries are minor, and they're the lowest priority for immediate medical treatment. So these are folks with things like small cuts, sprains, maybe a minor fracture. A really good indicator is that they're usually able to walk and talk pretty clearly. They still need medical attention, of course, but it's just not urgent. And finally, we come to the most difficult and emotionally draining category: black. This tag is for people who show no signs of life, or whose injuries are just so severe that with the limited resources available, they're considered beyond saving. Look, this is absolutely the toughest part of triage, no question. But the logic, as brutal as it sounds, is all about saving the most people you possibly can. Every single minute, every piece of equipment that's used on a patient who can't be saved is taken away from someone who could be. It's an awful choice, but it's made to save the many over the one. So let's just pull all of that together for a second. You have the life or death urgency of red, then the serious but stable yellows, and the walking wounded greens. It creates this really clear hierarchy of need. And it even accounts for that hardest decision of all, tagging someone black, all to make sure that resources are always focused on those who can be saved. Okay, so we've got the what, the colors, but how do responders actually do this on the ground, under all that intense pressure? Well, it's a really rapid step-by-step process. It all happens in this fluid, continuous cycle. It starts with a super quick assessment. Are they conscious? Are they breathing? Based on that, boom, they get a color tag. Any immediate, life-saving fixes, like opening an airway, get done right there on the spot. Everything is documented, and then, and this is so crucial, the process just repeats. A patient's condition can change in a heartbeat, so re-triaging is constant. You know, when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, it becomes really clear that triage isn't just some clinical process. It's really a whole philosophy for how to manage a disaster. Because at the end of the day, this is the one guiding principle for every single decision a first responder makes on that scene. Every color tag, every difficult choice, it's all driven by this one clear humanitarian goal: create the greatest good for the greatest number of people during the absolute worst of times. So the next time you see footage of an emergency scene, try to look past the flashing lights and all the chaos. Look for that quiet, methodical logic of triage at work, and ask yourself, now that you understand the brutal life or death calculus behind it, how does that change the way you see a crisis?